Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Great to have you here as always, and a big welcome if you're listening to the show for the first time. Today, I'm sitting down with Saiyid for an incredibly raw and reflective conversation about heartbreak, healing, and growth. We dive into the pain of divorce and betrayal and what it really takes to process these emotions, especially as a man. Anas opens up about navigating anger, discovering covert narcissism, and the moment he realized the importance of taking full responsibility for his part in the breakdown of his marriage. But this isn't just a story of pain, it is one of awakening. We explore what it means to break toxic cycles, how journaling and meditation became tools for clarity, and the shift from reacting to life to responding with awareness. We also unpack men's silent expectations, the weight of responsibility, and how faith in the unknown has helped us trust the path ahead. If you've ever felt stuck in repeating patterns, struggled with emotional control, or questioned whether things will ever get better, this episode is for you. I really enjoyed this one. I loved Anas's vulnerability, such an important topic and a theme that is super important for men on their growth journey. The taking responsibility piece is so important, and this perspective has meant that he has been able to transform his life for the better. So yeah, I have a feeling you guys will enjoy this one just as much as I did. Please do let me know your thoughts. We'd love to hear how you found this one. If you could kindly like, subscribe, and leave a review, it would mean that we can reach more men who are navigating their journey and help them along that path. Thank you so much. I'm Harrison, and this is the Growth Voyage podcast. Enjoy. Anas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, most welcome. The place where I always like to start these podcasts is a bit of a sort of who are you? Tell me a bit about your background, where the sort of growth journey all starts for you.
Okay, all right. Well, where am I from? That's a big international question. So I'm originally Pakistani by birth, but I lived in Saudi Arabia most of my life. I grew up in Saudi Arabia all the way through high school, and then after that I went to Canada for my university. I got my nationality, my passport from Canada, and then I came back to Saudi because my father was there. Got a job, and I've been working there since I came back from Canada. After when COVID happened, I was in Pakistan for the first time in my life. I lived there for like a year and a half with my parents, and yeah, that was a different experience as well. So I've been around, and now I'm in Bali. I came from Saudi. I was in Saudi Arabia. I'm working remotely, so my job allows me to be outside of the country for long periods. So I'm taking advantage of that, and now I'm here in Bali.
Yeah, wicked. I'm interested to hear sort of about your sort of childhood upbringing, or what was that like for you in the sense of, did you have sort of goals, ambitions, or was it very much, was the narrative just, right, you've got to make some fucking money and...
No. I was pretty ambitious growing up. I was kind of the go with the flow kind of guy, and I got into conspiracies a little bit too early in my teenage years, like in my university years, and I just knew everything was going to shit, so I didn't really give it much of a shot to try to be more than, like just a 9 to 5 office thing, right? Because everybody around me was doing that. They either had a business which had been around for like many years, their father's business, or they were just doing office work, right? And that was the trajectory for me as well. I'm the oldest son of like 4 siblings, right? And the only son. So like there's a little bit of responsibility that comes with that. So I took it on upon me. It wasn't like it was pressured on me, but I just took it on myself that, at one point I will be responsible for my sisters at one point. But yeah, that trajectory didn't work out. My father's an accountant. My grandfather's an accountant. I think the genes skipped a generation with me. So yeah, um, yeah. Then I just came back and did a regular job. So only after getting married and divorced is when I changed my perspective about things. That's when I really started my growth journey, doing the inner work and all that, right? Working on myself, changing the way I think, changing my perceptions, my lens, as per se.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting point because you mentioned they're like married and divorced, and it's only then you get that wake up call. It's
Yes,
come up on this podcast quite a few times where at some say something happens, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a death, maybe it's an injury, whatever it may be, suddenly their perception of who they were gets
exactly,
shattered, right? So
exactly.
yeah, I'm not surprised that that was the turning point for you. But
Yeah.
yeah, before we move on to that sort of turning point, I just want to know like what that process was for you in terms of your like mental space, right? Because I can imagine the divorce takes a huge toll on your mental health as well and stress. I'm interested to hear what it was like in in the darkness in the trenches.
Well, my divorce, when I got divorced, it was kind of a relief. It's a little long story. I got married, and my marriage was mostly long distance, like 90% of it. Like I was married for about 2 years, and I had known the person for like a year prior to that. And um, towards the end of the relationship, our communication was going down, and I wasn't really into it as much. I was kind of detaching myself from her, and she had already detached from me a long time ago. And when I finally decided where we were going to live together, I had done all the paperwork from my end to bring her to Saudi, right? And last minute she refused. So I was like, okay, fine. If you don't want to come, I'm not going to force anybody to live with me. You don't want to come? Let's get divorced. And that was that. I literally divorced her on text, and that's it. There was no paperwork, nothing. Uh, the dark part came when, like, when nobody came forward to, like, ask my side of the story or try to, bring us together from her side, from her family, right? And I had been through like a very um, important important part of their life in the 2 years I was married, because my ex-wife's mother had passed away, right? And in Saudi Arabia, in my city where I was living. So I had helped them, sort out all the burial issues, the paperwork and all that stuff. And it's a big part of that important moment of their life, and nobody reached out after that. So I was pretty angry for a few months after that. But about 10 months after my divorce, I found that she got married to another white guy, all right? And at first, when I saw the video, I saw it on a story, and I was like, good for her, she moved on and stuff. And before I was going to bed, I was like, wait a minute, who is this guy, right? And I did some digging, and I found that it was the same guy I used to suspect her with during my marriage, right? Who her father had told me not to worry about, right? Before my divorce, right? And when I got divorced, I had no idea. I didn't dig in much deeper because her father like told me to back off about it. So I backed off. I respected him, and I didn't do it. So my anger, when I found that out, I couldn't do anything. Like it's over. Been 10 months. I have no contact with her or her family or nothing. So I couldn't even if I did reach out, what am I going to say? What's the point, right? So I'm just internally like hurting myself, like being angry, and at that time my father had also gone through a open heart surgery, right? And people had told me that people changed after that. So like I didn't know how, but the anger that he had before, it amplified like 5 times. So I saw him in front of me getting angry about his life, about uh, how his life turned out, how his family turned out, whatnot, blaming others and stuff. and me, I'm going through this divorce, and I'm finding out that my ex-wife cheated on me, right? So I'm like, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like my dad at this age, being angry and at the world. I need to control my anger, right? And when I, first of all, like, well, before the anger part, I went into like finding out about psychology. Like I had this hobby, like it's my own hobby of like, studying, reading about psychology, understanding people, how people think and whatnot. And I could never figure out my ex-wife, and I didn't know at that time. Only after the when she got married, I started looking into like what are the characteristics of a person who cheats, who's a cheater, right? And then I came across this term called covert narcissist, right? Which is not like your regular narcissist, right? Uh, it's a different kind, right? They're covert narcissists are like they're like perfect people to other people, but they're only bad to their partners, right? They're completely opposite. They gaslight, they lie, they cheat, they give you silent treatments, right? They manipulate, right? All these things. So once I found that out, I because my relationship was like all on text, on long distance. So I had a lot of text to like go over the conversations I could read and stuff. So I had deleted my conversation, but it was ingrained in my mind, right? So I could go back and see the same tactics that all these corporate narcissists use. It was used on me, right? So I came to a point where I'm like, oh, the relationship failed because of her, right? I did everything right on my side for like 2 years, but I would keep ruminating about this. And now, even though I would try not to, but the thoughts about her or her family would come back, and I'm like, fuck it, like, what the hell, I didn't deserve that shit, but like, and then after, it took me about two years or so, where I reached a point, when I got divorced, all these other like manosphere people started coming up, like Andrew Tate and all that, right? And you'll always say that your man is responsible, fully accountable for himself. And it didn't really click in after a long time when I had to really go deep within myself, and I realize that I am at fault. I am the one who initiated the relationship, right? I am the one who got married, right? I'm the one who like, went forward with it, right? I was the main decider about this. I picked wrong. I picked the wrong apple, right? So, so I had to come to that, and once I came to that, I had to like forgive myself, right, for making that mistake, right? And just change the way. You can't just keep cussing yourself out. You can't just talk shit to yourself. You should. I did all these inner workings on myself to find out, how you should speak to yourself, how to bring yourself back up, because nobody else is coming to save you. Everybody has their own shit to deal with, right? You have to deal with yours, right? And not everybody changes. They just keep blaming others for what has happened in their life, and without taking responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to do, right? It's
Yeah.
very easy to have this mentality of, oh, this has happened to me and this has happened to me. But I think that's just an autopilot response, right?
Right.
And
Right.
like you were alluding to, I think unless you decide, actually, hang on, what is the common denominator
Yeah.
throughout all of this? And
Yeah.
I can certainly relate. I think when I first had challenges in my relationships and my interactions, I always thought, oh, like, hang on, what I can't be doing. I'm just being nice. I'm doing everything I can.
Right.
But you never look at, okay, actually, hang on, what events, what decisions have led up to this point in time? So, yeah, so many angles we can go in. I'm intrigued to hear about your reflections of leading up to it, right? And this has always fascinated me because I thought when people get married, right, you always think they're the one.
Yeah.
You always think
You don't
like,
think about divorce.
yeah, you always, and this is what I mean. Like you see these divorce rates now. I think it's what 40%. I think in the US,
yeah,
maybe more. It
yeah,
wouldn't surprise me.
yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Okay, what is that decision that people make to go? Okay, you know what? Okay, this is the one, but then it doesn't turn out to be that way. Do you think it's a case of perhaps they haven't done some work on themselves before, so then they are living in autopilot, and perhaps they're chasing a feeling rather than the person? Are there any reflections that you've had based on that period and the choices that
Yes.
you made? Because I think it's really important for guys to understand that and look at it from that perspective. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, you're always going to think you're making the right decision, right? We all do.
Right, exactly. No, I did come to that as well, like understanding what kind of person you have to be to get the right person, right? You can't just be like, okay, looking for green flags or red flags, trying to filter them out from like if they have too many red flags or like too many green flags. You have to like look at yourself first, like how do you act, and how do you like, because another thing that I've learned is about being properly masculine, right? Where you're just calm, right? Remain calm, because women are a bit chaotic, right? But they're in a beautiful way, it's just their way they're built, they have hormones, they have their things, and if you have a girlfriend, and you would know that women go through like 10 different emotions in a day, right? And you have to deal with them, yourself, you have to deal with them. As a man, you just have to like not react to everything that's thrown at you. Just pause and respond in a positive way, right? You should know when to respond and when to react, right?
I think it's something that I've really been looking into and exploring more in
Yeah.
terms of the dynamic there, because yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of this sort of masculine idea, it's okay. Sometimes women don't even know what they're going through sometimes,
Right.
right? And it's okay, can you hold that space without
Exactly.
again reacting to it?
Exactly.
And of course there might be some points where it's not about, I don't think it's about like right or wrong. Sometimes it's like, okay, like in my instance, I think, okay, if someone's clearly like angry about something or there's an emotion build up, it's like, okay, allow that to happen, allow
Yeah.
that, and just see if you can provide that container.
Yeah.
Not necessarily react straight away.
Yes.
Whether
Yes.
even if your ego is saying, oh, but hang on, what about this and this and this? It's like,
Yes.
okay, let's. And again, I'm no expert, but from what I've observed, it could be a case of, right, that's happened. If I'm feeling reactive to that, I'm not going to react as well. Okay, maybe we can revisit this at a point where we're both in a calm state, perhaps, and
Right.
then we can look at it from a rational perspective. But in your instance, because I think that works well when you're in a healthy dynamic, but in your instance, it sounds like perhaps there were unresolved issues from both sides, perhaps. So I think the really challenging part is knowing, okay, how do you provide that space, but then also, if you notice some, like you were saying, red flags, green flags, whatever they may be, how
Yeah.
do you decipher between, okay, right, just let them have their moment versus actually, hang on, there might be something not quite right here. And this is why I think the world of sort of therapy is so useful, to have an objective viewpoint on things. And I think I definitely agree in the sense that a lot of it's internal, but also if you're looking at like red flags in people,
Yeah.
I think it could also be a good opportunity to go, okay, I noticed that, so what is that telling me about myself
Right.
as well? So
Exactly.
actually looking outwards can give you
Yes.
answers
Yes.
about yourself. So
Yeah.
in terms of that process for you then, had you done any sort of reflection or self-development
Yes. Yep.
during the relationship, or was it all after?
No, all after.
All after,
No,
okay.
no. I understand what you're talking about. Like everybody's a reflection, right, of your inner self, right? Your reality, your inner reality reflects your outer reality, right? So if you work on your inner, you will find the right people for you, right? And like the whole point of being calm and stuff is about holding space, as you said, right? It's all about holding space for the other person to express themselves in a safe setting, right? When women say they feel safe around you, right? That's that's what women want, right? They want to feel safe around you, and you have to be that guy, just calm presence, a solid presence, who weathers the storm of her emotions, right? Whatever they may be. And for them, that's you holding space, but that's you being calm in your energy, right? And just, able to receive and hold space for the other person to express their emotions.
Yeah, and I also think on the sort of process of sort of going through it, you said in your case there was a lot of anger there, and you noticed that in your father as well.
Right.
So how did you process that? Because I think I've been through the process of, okay, cool. With your mind, you're saying, okay, no, hang on, it's not about them, it's about me. And there's this forgiveness angle, not only of these people who you may feel wronged you or whatever, but also forgiveness for yourself.
Right.
But I think there is a period there where we get angry and we feel these emotions. And I think we have to give ourselves the space to feel those. Like,
Yes.
if we're feeling angry, acknowledge those, then try and push it away.
Yeah.
Whereas I think sometimes we can bypass that. And
Yeah.
with the mind, I know this has certainly happened in my case and with a couple of other guys I've spoken to, where they've gone straight to the forgiveness aspect, but they haven't yet
Exactly.
dealt with this inner turmoil. So was regulating your nervous system a big part of that? Did you have a healthy outlet for your anger? Were you, because I guess also, if you look at our responsibility during all of these interactions, before we do a lot of inner work, a lot of the time we don't actually know how to deal with these. We're not taught it in school, how to deal
Right.
with our
Emotions.
no, we're never taught it, right? We're never taught, okay, this is what you do if you feel angry, and
Yeah.
that it's okay to feel anger as well.
Exactly.
A lot of the time it's, okay, no, we're angry, we can't,
Suppress it. Yeah.
yeah, we can't be angry. We've got to be, again, this is why I think there's a balance between, yeah, we want to be able to be in that calm state, but then, okay, can we also just acknowledge our emotions as well and actually not suppress them? So was that a big factor in your journey then? Did you feel like you gave yourself enough time to, yeah, like see yourself and reconnect with yourself in that way?
A lot of time. Firstly, I started meditating. I started to learn meditation, and I used like guided meditations on YouTube, and then the apps, right, like Calm, and but it wasn't helping. Like I did the meditation, I did the gym, I did what you would call journaling, right? Journaling helped a little bit when you just write what you're angry about and just release it from your system for a little while, right? But it will always come back. It's only after all doing these inner works, right? And when I reached that point of taking full accountability and responsibility, right, of what I had done in the relationship, is when I was able to let go, right? Was able to let go of the anger, right? Because I had to do it to myself, and you can't be angry at yourself for that long. You have to be you have to learn to be nicer, right? If you want to improve your life, right? And I was already in the mindset I want to improve, right? And that's the natural inclination for people when they get through a breakup. They want to. The best revenge is just to improve, right? You can't do anything else, right? Just to live your best life, and that's when I started developing a little bit of an ego, a little bit of a ambition that I want to be successful in life, so I can provide them for my next family that I start, right? I want to be able to provide freely for not just my family, but my parents, my siblings, and everything.
So were you using that as a motivator then, that whole experience? Was it that situation that motivated you, or was it more of a, okay, you know what, I want to be a better version of myself, let's get after this?
Yes, actually, once I started thinking I want, what about my next one? It's not that I want to, it's not like I'm thinking about them in the past to get back at them or anything. I'll let karma deal with them, I don't need to do anything. I have no intention of talking or looking them up, It's just for myself. Like I want to, for my next relationship that I plan to start, I want it to be better, I want to be more assertive and want to be able to make better and faster decisions, right? And to make faster decisions, you have to be financially wealthy, It helps. It's a tool, right? It definitely helps when you have money. Uh, in the beginning, when I first got married, there were too many options, and I used to overthink about things. I was kind of indecisive. I wanted her input as well, in the decision making process. Like, where do you want to live? you know, let's live here. What if you could you find a job over here as well? Not like looking solely at me, right? About deciding, because I had this mindset where we will grow together, we'll work together, we'll pay the rent half or something like that. Grow together, use the finances equally, but that doesn't work, for women. No matter what career they have, right? They want the man to pay, right, for everything. I mean, and it should be like that. It's not like they're asking for something new, right? It's just our mindset, the men's mindset has been changed because of feminism and all that, and the Western society, right? Where you don't have to be the breadwinner anymore, you know? Like this is what worked for millennia, right? The man is the breadwinner. He's the one who gets the house. You know, you give her the house and she makes a home kind of thing, right? Like I'm not saying all women should be housewives or anything. They can have careers, but men have more responsibility in terms of leading the household, right?
I think especially because I've really explored this topic myself because it's come
Yeah.
up in lots of conversations, and I think when you just look at the history of time, men have always had the advantage in the workplace, right? So
Yeah.
I think in the modern day, if I think we've almost got an obligation almost to earn more than our partner because we've
Yeah.
had the advantage for so long. So,
Right.
but again, I think it's a lot of pressure on guys. I think
It
in
is.
terms of the structure, but I know you can from my perspective, you can say it however you like, but at the end of the day, I think a lot of guys do want to be able to provide
Yeah.
that for their partner, right? I think
Right.
that's the everyone. I mean, I can't speak for all guys, but
Yeah.
from my perspective, I think you want to be that provider, and I think a deeply rooted fear, I think in a lot of guys is just not being able to be needed or respected, right? I think
Yes.
that's my perspective on it anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of like your arc, then you've done some inner work now. How has your perspective changed on sort of relationships now? I'm really keen to explore this because I think, at least in my experience, when I first started having interactions with the opposite sex, it was always my idea of attraction was different to what it is now. So,
Mm.
are there any lessons you've learned in that department? Is there perhaps an area of calmness that you're looking for now,
Yeah.
as opposed to excitement and ups and downs? Is it just finding someone that's more aligned with your values? Perhaps that's to do with who you are
Mm-hmm.
now. How has your perspective on relationships changed?
Uh, well, I'm in a relationship now. So the key aspect that I was looking for is respect, right? Because love and attraction, it comes and goes, right? If you're looking for long term, you want to look for like someone you want to marry, right? I can't say for short term relationships, or just like random hookups. That's a whole different ball game. Like it's on you what you find attractive, um, and physically or like for just short time, right? But for a long time, if you want to look for a marriage partner, I would say you should look for respect, right, from the other person when she kind of uh, listens to what you say, and someone you can just find a home in, so you're comfortable with, right? You don't have to think before speaking, right? You can just be yourself, your most authentic self, right? You don't have to like think about like my ex. I had to like I was literally walking around in eggshells, right? Like when I had to like think before I say something, right? And I don't want that. I don't want to live like that, It's
It's
you're
out of
like
alignment, right?
yeah, out of alignment, right? Um, so I haven't been in many relationships, but I'm in a relationship right now. But our values are similar, right? And like she has a little spiritual knowledge, right? So it's easy for me to talk to her, right? So we're on the same kind of page. We share similar interests. But value system is the most important. Like that you want to start a family. If you want to get married, you want to start a family, right? It's not just for the sake of paperwork, right? You want to have kids, right? That that's something you should look for. If you want to get married to somebody, do they want to have kids? Do they uh, do they have that nurturing element to them? You meet a lot of girls, they don't want to have kids at all, right? Or they want to wait till like their 30s, right? Uh, like usually mid 30s when they wake up, they're like, I need to find a partner, right? Real quick, and you know, just those things for me, I guess, like those are the things I look for in a person to assess if there would be marriage material.
Yeah, I think the values piece is a super important one,
Yeah.
especially when even just like the day-to-day stuff as well, or like what you both value in the sense of like, so for me, I think just being open to growth and improving as a person is a massive one.
Yeah.
And that's just my perspective, because if you're both open to improving yourselves, you're both looking to look introspectively, then that way that kind of removes the ego a bit, right? When you have disagreements and arguments, which naturally you're going to have in relationships, if you're
Yeah.
both committed to growth and you're both going to use that time alone to then think, okay, cool, how could I have done better in this situation? And I think that for me is a big one. I'm sure there's many others, but that's the way I perceive it.
I would like to add something. When getting to a new relationship, it's helpful to to assess and sort of test in a light way, not like just to test the other person's, you know, intellectual level or like emotional level, right? When they get angry, how angry do they get? Can you contain it, right? Is it too much? Do they communicate when they're angry? Do they give you silent treatment, right? Do they just go quiet and cold and not respond to you, or do they actually communicate, right? That's what the communication is. No matter what you're feeling, right? You're able to communicate your emotions, what you're feeling, right? That's very important, because we're not mind readers, right? Men not mind readers. We don't know if you're angry or pissed or you're sad or what you're going through.
Well, this is what I think a lot of guys struggle with, because it's very easy to say, all right, just communicate more, communicate what's in your mind. I don't think, especially if in your sort of upbringing or in your childhood or even just growing up, right, like we were saying, in school, you don't really get taught to process your emotions. I think a lot of the time guys struggle because they don't actually know what they're feeling.
Yeah.
So I think the difficulty is, even if your intention is to communicate,
Yes.
sometimes you didn't even know that something's going on up there.
Yeah.
I think that's a real struggle.
Right. Right.
In your experience, you mentioned there taking responsibility, right? But I can't imagine, going through a divorce, finding out someone's cheated on you. That is a lot of pain. So how do you go from that? How do you start taking responsibility? How do you shift out of that victim mindset? How did you do it anyway?
Well, I did all the self-improvement stuff that people tell you to do, meditating, journaling, right? Writing out your thoughts, putting them out in the open, like not just in your head, right? Releasing them from your head. And then meditation helps in the sense that, you realize that there's an actual soul and your mind is not you, right? Because it gives you 1,000 thoughts a day, right? And if you just sit still and observe, you realize that you are an observer of your thoughts. So you're not your thoughts. So your brain is just like your hands and your legs. You're like a tool that God gave you, it's an organ, right? It's not you, right? So once you realize that, you can see, you can, uh, you can pause a little bit, when someone acts out of line, you don't have to react to every situation, right? You can just assess it, pause, breathe, do some breath work, just 2 or 3 deep breaths, like short breaths and then but longer exhales, right? Short inhales and longer exhales, right? That way your mind's a bit open, right? And you can then decide what to say, based on that.
It's that to do with sort of like regulating the nervous system a bit as
Yes.
well, because we're reacting,
Right.
and I think a lot of the time we're reacting from the mind, but if actually it's our body that's reacting, so if we can learn to regulate that and
Yeah.
calm that down, then we can operate from a more grounded state. And I love the idea there you touched upon spirituality.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge part in any self-development process. At least it was in my journey, because once you can start separating yourself from your thoughts, suddenly you're no longer in autopilot. You're actually
Right.
questioning it, and
Yes.
this idea of like a
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
There's like you were saying, it's an object. Like these thoughts are objects.
Yeah.
A bit like this sort of glass of water. The thoughts are the same, and when you create that separation, suddenly
Yeah.
you're not identified with that. And I think that's a huge step in going,
Yes.
okay, actually, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
There's actually something going on here, and then you can think, okay, where does that come from? You can start questioning it,
Right.
and then, like you're saying, I think the more sort of work you do on yourself, eventually
Yeah.
you have no choice but to take responsibility,
Right.
because it's like, hang on, this is a program that I've been running off, right? And in
Yes.
your instance, you're going, you're saying your father was an accountant, his father, and then it's almost like you were meant to go down a certain route. because of your program, but that wasn't truly
Yeah.
what you wanted. And it was almost like this moment, this divorce, all this stuff, this
That
was
awakened
actually,
it. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
awakens you. And now
Yeah.
you've gone on this journey,
Yeah.
and now you can attract more aligned friendships and relationships,
Right.
which is super awesome. I think the more inner work that you do, the better quality of your life will be, because you'll get better relationships. I think just more overall sort of abundance as well. You'll start realizing what your values are. You'll start, because I think a lot of the time we go through life, we don't actually know who we are at our core.
Yeah.
We don't actually know what we stand for. I
Right.
know in my case, I was always looking outwards, and I never actually knew, okay, what do I think about this topic? What do I value? And then once you know your values, I think from there you can really press on and start to carve out a life for yourself, because now you know what you prioritize, what you don't want, what sorts of people you want in your life.
Exactly.
I think that makes a huge difference, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also interested in this idea of, in terms of like spirituality and consciousness, how important has it been in your journey and your perspective on life, right? Because I think, especially looking at that wake up call that you had,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, cool, right, now I need to do something different.
Yeah.
But it's also looking at it as a blessing, right? Like, I'm sure at the time it was a difficult moment for you, and you were just like, oh, I just want to be done with this.
Yeah.
But then now looking back, you can see the meaning behind the event, and you can see why it happened. You can see the benefits of it. So is that approach had a big impact on you, do you think, for the rest of your life going forward? Like seeing challenges as necessary moments for growth?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Ye- when I got divorced, I was already feeling blessed. When I got divorced, I was already feeling relief, and like it wasn't so much like there was no sadness, right? I had already gone through the sadness part during my marriage, right? And after the divorce, it was just anger because I felt like it was very easily discarded. Like I just texted her, "I'm divorcing you as of this date," and that's it. And we talked a little bit for probably a couple of weeks. I was trying to get some disclosure or some closure, right? And but we just went around in circles. I'm like, forget it. No point in continuing talking to you. So yeah, and then nobody from her family reached out. So there's a lot of anger because of that, right? I felt like I was disrespected, right? And there's a quote I read one time that we kind of put things in perspective. Anger is your friend, Anger is that friend that realizes that you shouldn't have been disrespected or like, treated that way, right? That's why it comes out, like,
Something's out of alignment again.
yeah, exactly. It's out of it's out of alignment with who you truly are, right? So anger is your friend. It's not a bad thing. We're told anger is a bad thing and we shouldn't be angry. Stop being angry, like learn to control that shit, But we should like incorporate into our being, like the shadow work that we have to do, right? In your inner work. So I did shadow work unknowingly, right? It's only when I came to Bali and I met some actual spiritual people, like face to face, and when I realized that I've actually healed through a lot of shit that I was going through, right? So yeah, I'm good with that, like now.
What does shadow work look like for you?
Just incorporating every aspect of you, like and being aware of it, right? And not suppressing, not learn how not to suppress it, just transmute it in a way, right, to something better, right? Like anger, right? If you're angry, okay, embrace it, feel it, but let it go. Don't just stay in the constant state of anger, right? You want to reach contentment or peace, right, in life. You don't want to be angry, right? And and the more you can let go, the more you'll find peace, right?
So how do you let? Because I know there'll be people listening to this, and especially if they're at the start of their
Yeah.
journey, they're like, "Well, what do you mean letting go of anger? Well, what does that mean?"
Like realize that you can't control anybody, right? People are gonna act the way they do, and you can't always get angry at other people, right? Who can't control their emotion. You can control your emotion. You don't have to get angry at someone else, right? If someone did you wrong, you have to look back at where it started, right? Why did you meet this person? What put you in a situation where you had to interact with this person, where you built a friendship or whatnot, your relationship, and all these things, right? You have to go real back, because when I was meditating, I wanted to stop overthinking. Like I would always replay scenarios in my head, right? Like, and do hypothetical situations where I'd be like, I should have said this, or I should have done that, or like this, right? No need, just let it go. Just learn the lesson, right? And that's it. You can't. It's a waste of energy just living in the past, right? Yeah, and worrying too much about the future either, right? Just try to be more present. That's what meditation does. It helps you be grounded and be present, right, in the moment. Like right now, I'm talking to you. We're not looking at our phones. We're just with us, right? you know, we're in this conversation fully. We're not distracted. We know where we are. We know where we're sitting, right? And there's nothing else. We don't have to think about where we have to be or who do we have to meet. We can just be present in this moment and just make the best of it right now, right? Don't overthink. Just be, just exist, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's so tricky to do. It's one thing
It
to
is.
say it, but to actually do it in the
Yeah,
modern
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't have any like proper steps or guidelines. It's just like a long cocktail of things that I did. It was like a mixture of things I think that I did, and I don't know what exactly worked for me, right? Because I think there's a bunch of things that helped, right? Um, in terms of like helping people in in self improvement, right? I just want people to get out of a bad dark spot, take accountability for their life, right? Really go back and think about what they did, before their bad incident, bad you know experience, right? and and move on from there. Like I just want people to. I can't help you with your self improvement because I'm not a coach. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Maybe you need to go to the gym. Maybe you need to start looking more attractive. Maybe you need to work on your finances, right? Maybe you need to work on your mental health. Maybe like not everybody can sit still and do meditation, right? For them, they need to be doing some activity, right? Maybe do a puzzle, like a 1,000-piece puzzle, or like play something that's just with them, and and whatever's in front of them, just be quiet, in that space, and just be present with whatever their activity they're doing, right? That's one way. Or journaling is one thing, right? Journaling really helps. And I'm not talking about, going on the phone and just writing on your note, typing your notes. It's something else about pen to paper, right? That's effective. I don't know what it is, right? But it's old school. It really helps.
I think a lot of the time as well, when our mind's very chaotic,
Right.
suddenly it's just, as you were saying, just writing shit down,
Yeah.
and then it's just there, and it's like, okay, cool, I think everything's actually down there now, and then you
Yeah.
can just detach from it a bit,
Yeah.
and it's just no longer in this chaotic
Yeah.
mind. And I think sometimes when I've been overwhelmed, what's worked for me is just going, you know what, I'm in a state of overwhelm, just being like, okay, you know what, I can choose in that moment.
Yeah.
You know what, enough of this. Let's just detach from it. Let's just surrender to it.
Yeah.
And now it's like, even when I'm going through some challenging times, maybe you can relate to this. It's again separating ourselves from our thoughts. It's like, okay, right, these are the mind's problems. These
Yeah.
are the day-to-day stuff that I need to get done or I need to work through.
Yeah.
But again, it's like finding those periods of presence throughout the day. But I think it needs to be a conscious choice
Yes.
for sure, and it requires discipline.
Yes.
I've definitely caught myself in the past. It's one thing saying it, but okay, are you actually embodying it as
No,
well?
this is one thing I just remembered. Like that really did help me in journaling. It helps you really shift your perspective, right? We were talking about the mind being an entity of it on its own, right? It produces thoughts on its own, and we have to reprogram it. And the way to reprogram it, I believe, is to not just meditation. It's by meditation you realize that you can program it, right? You understand that there's a separation between you and the brain, right? But the second thing is when you journal, You know the thing they say, like, write 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for, right? Even when your life is shit, you don't have, like, you're broke, or you don't have a roof over your head or something, or like you went through a bad breakup or something, right? You can just be grateful for simple things like this table, like it's sturdy and it's nicely designed. Just talk about that stuff. You don't have to talk about your own life. You don't have to talk about what you're angry, right? You're not going to become a storyteller. I'm not telling you to write your own story or biography in your journals, right? Just write 3 simple things about, what you're grateful for in this life, right? It could be simple things like glass, like this holds my water, this table, this couch that I'm sitting on is comfortable, simple things. And then slowly, if you discipline yourself in writing on a consistent basis, right, over like 20 days or so, right, your your mind will change perspective. It will start looking for positive things. It'll start looking for more things that you could be grateful for, right? That's how you shift your mindset, right? When from that dark space, you have to like start looking, just stop and smell the flowers, smell the roses, as they say, You don't just let life pass you by. When you're sitting in this place, beautiful place, like appreciate it. you know?
Oh yeah, I love that idea of the gratitude stuff as well. Because
Yeah,
again, it's like the slight edge. Okay, maybe if you do it once, you might not see a big difference. But if you do the small things over a longer period of time,
right.
then I think that's where you'll start to see a difference. It's like
Exactly.
any habit, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure a big part of your journey as well was
Of
looking
building habits.
forwards, but then also just thinking, okay, who's the version of me that I want to become? And maybe it was going to the gym more, or
Yeah.
okay, maybe I want to be more sporty, or I want to show up a certain way. And
Right.
obviously, you did a lot of that, right?
Yes.
Thinking about, right, how do I want to show up in my relationships? Do I need to put boundaries in place?
Yes.
What are my values? And it's actually
Yeah.
deciding who you are. Whereas before that rock bottom moment, you never really know who you are. You don't know what you
Exactly.
stand for, right?
Yeah. And you just like go with the flow, right? And another thing, when you do the self development work on yourself, you understand your own values and what you like and what you dislike. You become a bit more firm in those, right? So when you see a girl you're like assessing to get into a relationship with, right? You place those boundaries in the beginning, right? Not just like bring them up when a boundary has been crossed. You internally, your boundary has been crossed, and you didn't tell that person, you didn't express the boundary in the first place, right? And like, so, and women usually ask you when they start liking you, they start asking you what you like and what you do dislike, right? And you have to know what you like or dislike, or else they take advantage of that shit,
Mm.
like, they will like, if it's blurred line and you're like you're okay, right? You'll try to fit into their world, right, or their values and belief systems, which are like always like this, One day it's like this, one day it's like that, like one day they're like going to gym, and they have a routine. One day they're like partying for like a week, like
Well, you can
so.
lose yourself. Yeah,
Exactly,
you will lose yourself. So that's why I think knowing who you are and sticking true to that, and then
exactly,
trusting again with the alignment piece.
right,
Okay, right. If something's is my life in alignment, if it's not, there's going to be signs. I
yeah,
know one of my biggest lessons, it's not even just relationships as well, man. It's like work and all this other stuff. If you're burning out all the time, something's in misalignment. Like you haven't delegated something, or and again in your relationships, if it's not feeling great at the moment. Okay,
off,
something's off. There's misalignment there. So it's like, okay, what actually is it? 'Cause
yeah,
we need to. I think, yeah, it's a great point. We need to know this stuff, and it's a big part of because another reason why I love these sort of rock bottom or sort of challenging moments is because it shapes who we are and what our mission is and what our values are, right?
yeah.
So how have you sort of used the situation to shape sort of your mission going forward and perhaps the difference you want to make in the world?
Yeah. Well, the main lesson that I learned from after getting divorced was my own self-worth, right? Of how I value myself, how I see myself, right? And then how I can change that and improve that, right? As a presence, as a person, not like, I'm not talking about worldly success or like, my physical looks or whatnot, just as the way I think, the way I am, right? So my um, my journey got me to this point where I was watching a lot of videos on YouTube about, covert narcissism and all that, and I was listening to a lot of therapists talk about it, and they had millions of views about this. So I realized that there was like a lot of people who had worse than me. I was lucky, right? I got off scot-free, like, like I don't have any kids, I didn't have any property with them, I don't have any business with them. There are people in these kind of relationships that were in them for like a decade or more, right? And when they get out of it, it's really, really bad, right?
Yeah, you got out of it quick.
Yeah,
Again,
I got it really nice and clean.
but I love it because it ties in with the gratitude piece where,
Yeah.
there's going to be there's a lovely quote. It's about if you're on the wrong train, right, the longer it takes to get off that train, the longer the journey back. So it's like, right, if you notice you're on the wrong train, man, you gotta get the fuck off there.
Exactly.
Get on a new one.
Get the train back. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Sometimes there's a delay though. Yeah.
And I know you wanted to perhaps use this experience as well to sort of help other men perhaps who are
Right.
going through divorce as well.
Yeah.
How's that shaping up? What's the vision behind that?
So getting back to that, like I was watching a lot of videos on this, and like for both men and women, there are women who went through bad relationships as well, who were with covert narcissists as well. But like I came to a point because like I kept watching these videos and started learning. I'm like, okay, to what end? To what end, right? I was still ruminating. I was still pissed off for like 2 years. It's been 2 years since I got divorced. Once I got to that point where I can look back and take full accountability and responsibility for my life, right, is when I realized I'm like, you know what? This helped me a lot. Like I was able to let go a lot much faster. And so I wanted to help other men or women in that, for that matter, to realize, to get to that point where they can take full accountability for their actions, no matter how bad the relationship was. Doesn't matter if it was a covert narcissist or some other bipolar disorder, right? Doesn't matter. You were the one who initiated the relationship, especially for men, right? I mean, you're the one who asked the girl out, right, to go out with you, right? Girls just sit there, look pretty, and they're just waiting for someone to approach them, right? You're the one who approached, right? Why did you approach, right? And why did you go on? And when you saw signs, when you saw like bad behavior and like red flags, why didn't you take action? Why didn't you walk away, right? Why didn't you end it then, right? Once you get to that point, you're like, oh, I didn't have boundaries, right? What are my boundaries now? Now you know what your boundaries are, right? Because they crossed it, right? Then you move on forward, right, with your next relationship. When you get to that point where you're ready to take on another relationship, right? You're looking for those things, right? You state your boundaries, and you don't go around and argue with women, right? Because women are like that. All women, I feel like, have a minor in like law. They can be lawyers, because when you get into arguing, they can do circles around you, right? They'll always come back. You can argue with women for like hours, right? And it will get you nowhere. It's better if you're able to walk away, right, and be like, you know what? I don't need to deal with this shit. You do you, I do me. I told you, I stated clearly what I don't like, and you went ahead and did it anyways, right? You disrespected me. You don't respect my boundaries, right? I'm gonna walk away. And you should be able to do this it's easier to do this in the early on in the relationship, right? Not later on, not like 6 months in. Then that's when you get fucked. You're like, you didn't say this before. Why is this a new boundary now? All of a sudden, like you have to be able to assess a person before you get into a relationship, right? And just like that is when, if it gets to that point, right? As men, I don't think you should be actively looking for a relationship, right? You just be free, be authentic. If someone comes along, right, sticks around, that's perfect. And if you want them to stick around, you assess them. You're like, okay, yeah, do I like this person? Do I like hanging out with this person? Am I comfortable? Is it chill? Do I have to think? Do I have to plan everything, right? Well, you have to plan, but like, are they okay with no plan, right? Can they just sit with me quietly, Do I have to always like fill the air, uh, that silence? Do I have to like fill in gaps? you know? Can I just sit in peace, right? While she's here, right? Can I read a book, if I wanted to? Or do I have to entertain her all the time, These are things that you need to like think about when you're with a person, right? And if you want to go for long term, right?
Yeah, I see that, man. And I think there's so many different nuances to this stuff. And
There
you
is,
forget as well, we're all just humans figuring this stuff out. We're just
yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
still like, there's so many different dimensions to this
There
as
are,
well.
there are.
So I love that you're, yeah, doing your part, and you've got a vision on sort of helping other people who've been in a similar situation. I think it's really, really awesome. And again, it might appear obvious to you now, but for a lot of people, they haven't even been exposed to this world before. It's like, okay, could there be parts of myself I need to look at? Are there signs, perhaps? And like you're saying, I think the longer you're on the wrong train, then
Yeah,
the longer it is.
to get back.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah,
that's wicked.
yeah.
What we'll do, we've got three closing traditions
Okay.
on the podcast usually. The first two are asked they're the same every week, every episode.
Okay.
And then the third one is asked by a listener of the Growth Voice podcast.
All right.
So the first one is pretty light-hearted, but it usually says a lot about either your current state or your personality. It's a song recommendation.
Song recommendation. Okay. Uh, I don't know. Recently getting into jazz. Like I like house music usually, but with harmony. I don't have a favorite track right now. Um, right now I'm listening to the handpan music, right? Like those hour-long sets. They're just playing peaceful music, just like in the background. It's very calming, right? That's what I've been listening to for the last couple of weeks, right? I can't tell you a song straight off my head. Um, um, I don't know. There's a song I like, "Come a Long Way." I think it's by Fink. I forget the name of the song. I'll have to look it up, but it's about like coming a long way from small beginnings, you know, and yeah, he just keeps saying that, and it's a really nice track. It's a bit of rock, I guess. I don't know if you classify it as rock or alternative rock. I'm
Okay,
not sure, but yeah, that's one my song I would choose.
awesome. Yeah, we'll put it in the description below. I'll certainly be checking it out. And it's
Sure.
interesting you mentioned the handpan stuff as well,
Yeah.
because I think I'd need to find something a bit more calming during the day. I
Right.
think my go-to is to go, yeah, I love my house music and I love all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, right, do I always need to be up and
Yeah. Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
bit of something to balance me out? So
Exactly.
that's cool. Second one is a book recommendation.
Book recommendation. I would recommend uh, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I thought that was a really good one. Um, for those who don't know, it's a Roman emperor with like Greek background in education. He would write his own personal thoughts to himself, and these were never meant to be published, right? And they found them like I don't know how many years after he passed away, and they collected them all and they put them in a book, right? And there's just so much wisdom in his words, the way he speaks to himself, the way he talks about others. This man was something of value, like it's there's a lot of wisdom nuggets, as I say, in that book, and it really helps, with your, if you ever wanted to get into journaling, right? Just read that book once and just see how he speaks to himself, right? Like he doesn't say bad things to himself. He tells himself in a very like a friendly way, like as if he's a friend to himself, you know. And no, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't be like that. This is what you should do, how you should behave, how you should act, how you should, think, right? I think that's a great book. Um, Besides that, what else could I? Oh yeah, Mountain is You. The Mountain is You. That is a fantastic book. Every time I had picked it up, it took me like a year to finish it, but like every time I did pick it up, I was at that stage in my life where I was meant to pick it up, right? And I just finished it like a couple of weeks ago. So you know when you get towards the end of the last few chapters, right, about being the best version of yourself and you meeting your most authentic self, right? I was literally at those stages. So I feel like my life is going with that book, you know, like it really helps. She wrote it, she gave some brilliant, you know, ideas, and it, I recommend it to everybody, everybody.
Yeah, that's a wicked suggestion. I really enjoyed that book. So
Yeah.
many revelations as
So
well.
many
And like you
revelations.
were saying, it came at the exact right time for me as
Yeah,
well. Every time I've sort of tuned into it, it's
yeah,
funny, and it's funny with these podcasts as well. Because sometimes I'll batch record them, right? And
yeah.
sometimes it might be a month, 2 months, sometimes 3 months before I publish them. And I'll listen back to the episodes and I'm like, wow, it's like we're speaking to my future self in that moment because now I
Yes,
can really
yeah.
relate to this
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
future self. Yeah,
It's really funny, but
yeah,
again, I don't think you can truly learn the lessons until you've experienced it yourself. I
yeah, yeah.
think a lot of the time you can hear
Right.
one thing, but then it's only once you've experienced it, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, now I really understand
Yeah,
what that message
yeah,
is.
yeah. We gotta make the mistakes ourselves.
I think
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That's the best way to learn, like your own mistakes, you know.
and you'll keep on learning the same mistakes, or you'll
Yeah.
keep on
Or you keep
experiencing them
learning.
until you learn the lesson, right?
Yeah. I have this belief where, you know, you meet people, um, when someone comes in your life, they're either a blessing or a lesson, right? Either they're good for you or they're a lesson to be learned, you know, whatever that may be for you,
I don't
you
know
know.
if you've explored the ideas of like soul contracts before,
Yes,
but they're
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
idea that you
Karmic soul contracts, and or like twin flame kind of thing. Are you talking about that?
twin flame.
Yeah. These are like I think there's something to do with zodiac astrology. You know,
Okay.
you meet a person. Now, I don't know if this is for everybody, but like there you'll have one relationship in your life that would be like a twin flame, right? Where you it's not a soulmate exactly, but it's like it feels like a soulmate, but it's not, right? And that's preparing you for your actual soulmate kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, I like that.
You know,
That's really
like
interesting.
you get into a bad relationship and you learn from it, and if you do learn from it and you let go of it, right? You have the opportunity, you know, to meet your soulmate. That could be years. It's not like the next day, you know, and someone comes knocking on your door. Hi, I'm your soulmate. No, it's not like that. It's like there's a lot of long wait period, you know, and working on yourself kind of thing, you know, learning the lesson internally, right, and then moving forward.
Oh yeah, this is why I think that whole it's just an endless game.
It's an endless
It's an
game.
endless game,
Endless
and it's
game.
just like you're gonna
Yeah,
keep on playing it because you just know that there's
yeah,
so far,
yeah,
far
yeah.
to experience,
We
man.
have to keep working on ourselves. It's a constant learning process, you know.
Yes.
And then if we don't learn, we're pretty much dead. You know, that's what life is. We just have to keep learning,
Well,
right?
this is what I mean. I think once you're on the growth journey, it's like, can you really stop? I think you're always
Yeah, yeah,
still gonna be on it because
yeah,
you've just seen the benefits
yeah,
it
yeah.
can give you. So yeah, wicked suggestions. The third question is asked by one of the Growth Voyage listeners,
Okay,
and today I decided to ask a question from Will Adamy,
okay.
who's kindly uh, introduced us to each other, and his question was, what lights a fire underneath you?
What lights a fire underneath me? Is in what like you know, turn to passion?
Yeah, what really sort of gets you going?
Uh, I don't know, man. I'm still trying to find that one constant thing that will, you know, keep me motivated, right? Because it comes and goes. It's not steady. It's not like I have this burning desire to do something, you know, and want to make 100K a month or like 10,000K a month. I want those things, you know, and I know that they will come eventually. So I don't need this fire. I don't like it. It's just a deep knowing that things will work out, right? And you know, as I want, right? As I would want them to be, you know. Like I do a lot. I have a lot of thinking of those laws of attraction, things like that, right? About you don't have to really have an external source that lights a fire underneath you, right? You don't need to be always angry or like driven, right? You just have to just be and just accept, right? And just like know what you're trying to manifest will come to you eventually, right? You know, it's a state of mind, right? It's not like you always looking for motivation, right? People still always argue about is it discipline or motivation, right? What is it that you need, right? It's just knowing yourself and then building habits to work towards it and just enjoy the process and not be too attached to the outcome to get to what you want. Just know it's coming, right?
Yeah, I think there's a funny way the universe works in terms of it will keep on pushing away the thing that you want, the more that you want it.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of guys, men in particular, they want that passion, they want that purpose, that thing that's going to keep them going, 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 going.
yeah,
And so it's interesting to hear that perspective. Sometimes you just need to surrender and accept that, okay, you know what, I think this is going to, I just trust that I'm on the right path. I'm doing
right,
the work on myself and
right.
I'm building habits to get to somewhere. And I
Yeah,
have a rough goal, I have a goal in mind,
yes,
but it's also just trusting the process, I think.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing that I wanted to touch on when you just said, I just lost my train of thought. Shit. But um, we were talking about how we trust the process, right? You're, what do I want to say? I have to put this in, think about this a little bit. Um, your reality reflects your internal being, right? Like if you already have a strong knowing about how things will work out, like you just know that things will work out, right? You just know that it's it's like you know what, I don't know how to say this right now. It's I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. Yeah.
But essentially, the message is like from what I gathered, was you can influence your external reality by working on doing the inner work, right?
Inner work,
Like
yeah.
the more you sort of work on yourself, the more you're going to create those opportunities. And
Yes.
just by trusting that, okay, by working on yourself and the way you approach life, you spoke about
Yeah.
gratitude as well, just really cultivating that mindset from
Yeah.
within, then the external will match that. So you can make reality magic. You can make it whatever you want it
Right.
to be,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And having an abundant mindset as well, that there's enough for everybody, right? Everybody can be a millionaire if they really wanted to, but they have to want it, right? And also, yeah, the other thing that you were talking about, I just remembered. You said like you were talking about, wanting things, right? When you want things, that's when you're lacking them, right? That's when the universe says that you don't have them, and then they won't give it to you because you have to give those things to yourself first, right? You want money, you want to act rich. How would you act rich, right? Like it's a feeling, right? The universe works on emotions, right? Emotions are the ones that bring the frequency and the vibrations and whatnot, right? It's based on your emotions. So if you how to manifest things that you want to internalize that emotion that you would have if you had the thing that you want, right? You have to give the things that you want to yourself first before the universe can give it to you after, right? Like if you want love, right? You have to embody love. You have to love yourself first, right? Love yourself first. Love whatever you have, right? Be grateful for whatever you have, right? And then you'll find love. Love will find you, actually. You won't find love, love will find you. You don't have to go looking for anything. You just have to work on yourself, right? And your reality will come to you the way you want it, right? The way, even better, maybe. That's how God works, right?
This is what I believe when people say, right, I want to find the perfect partner, I want a girlfriend or whatever. It's like, okay, cool, become the best possible version of yourself. And
Right.
then once you're there, you'll probably let go of wanting it, and then that's where it will find you, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a brilliant message to end on. Yeah, mate, thank you so much for
Thank you for
coming on the
having
show.
me.
Been a
This is
real
my
pleasure, buddy. Where can people find you if they're interested in connecting with you or finding out a bit more about the work that you're building at the moment?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. Um, I've just started, so like I've just posted a few videos. Um, it's a Saiyid, Asaiyid, on YouTube and on Instagram as well. Anas.Sayyid at Instagram. Like I made that into an email domain. No, it's not like that, but the Instagram handle is Anas Sayyid, Anas.Sayyid.
Wicked. And I know you've been working on a lot of content in the background as well, right? So yeah, certainly look forward to checking those out.
Thank you, man.
Thanks
Appreciate
again,
it.
buddy. Pleasure
Appreciate it,
having you
man.
on.
Thank you. Take
Let's
care.
go.